Hello, my friend. Today we're learning Bobe Basra Daf Mem Dalet. So the sugya starts on Mem Gimel Amud Beis. It said in the Brisa, if someone mocha loy bais mocha loy soda, Reuven sold Shimon a house or a field, so he ain't made loyal. He can't be made that belongs to him. Why? Because he has a chrayas on it. But if mocha loy por mocha loy talis, if he sold him a taltalim like a cow or a cloak, he could be made loyal. Why? Because and the Gemara straight away asked, what's the difference? And we had Rav Sheshes explaining that the cases are following. We have here Reuven stole a field from Shimon and sold it to Levi, and now Yehuda is coming and saying it belongs to him. So he's saying that the Nigzal, Shimon, who got stole the karka, can't be made that it does not belong to Yehuda because it's nogia to him, because he prefers that it should stay by Levi, and it will be easier for him to get it from Levi than from Reuven. So that's the explanation. So the Gemara asks here, now we're up to Memdala Domud Beis, Velukme Begazlan. Why do we need 4 people over here? Reuven stole from Shimon, sold it to Levi, and Yehuda's tailoring it. Why don't we say that Reuven stole from Shimon, and now Yehuda is coming to say that it belongs to him, so Shimon the Nigza can't be made that it doesn't belong to Yehuda because he prefers that it should stay by Reuven, and he should take it off Reuven that stole it off him. That's the Gemara's kasha. But look, Gazlin, why do we need a Gazlin who sold it? Said the Gemara, Mishum de Kaboyle Misna Sefer, because in the Sefer of the Brisa it says, Mocha loy pora, mocha loy talis, the same case, but he sold something that's metaltalim. And over there, the dafka mocha only if Reuven sold it to Levi. They have a yush v'shinu rishus. That then there's yush that Shimon was miyayish from this cow, from this talis, and shinu rishus. That's now after the Gazdan took it. It was mishani rishus into Levi's rishus. Then we say he could be made that it doesn't belong to Yehuda because he's not nogia be'edus, because it anyway belongs to Levi because it was shinu rishus and yush and shinu rishus. So then we need to have that he sold it. Avaloi mochar, if we would be talking about the Reuven stole it and Yehuda's tailoring that it says and Shimon's made, Shimon couldn't be made. The Hodrole, because if it stays by Reuven, and even if there's only Yush, but there's no Shinu Rishus, Reuven's not koiner it, and therefore Reuven will have to give it back to Shimon, so therefore Shimon's nogia be'edus. So that's why we need to have a case, and not only Gzela, also Mechira. So again, Avaloi mocha, the Hodrole, loi tona. So therefore Reisha Nami, that's why in the Reisha also mocha. That's why we need to have a case of 4 people, and it's not enough 3 people. Said the Gemara, the Sefer, in the Sefer when it's Summa Talis and Apara, Nehinami de Miyash Migufe, very good that Shimon was Miyash from this item, Midomea mi Miyash. The Gazlin, if someone gets stolen something from him, even though there's Miyash from the Gzela, the Gazlin still has to pay back the value of it. And therefore, Shimon can't be made, because he's still nogia be'edus. Why? Because if this item was Adim who are coming now on timing that Yehuda's and would give it to Yehuda, so Shimon couldn't claim from Reuven anything because it's Yehuda's Bechlal. Sorry. No one stole it from Shimon if it was Yehuda's all the time. So therefore Shimon prefers that it should be not in the hands of Yehuda, in the hands of Levi, and therefore Levi says he bought off Reuven. Now Shimon's going to prove that Reuven stole it from him, so he'll get back the money. Says Nogia be'edus. So the Gemara loitricha the meis Gazlin. It's talking about that Reuven the Gazlin died. We learned in the Mishnah, goizelu machelis bon, of someone who stole something and he fed what he stole to his kids. Oh, v'niach lifneim, he left the item in front of them. P'tur mileshalem, they don't have to pay back. So therefore, there's no chiyuv tashlumim over here. Once Reuven died, there's no chiyuv tashlumim on the gzela, and therefore Shimon has no benefit in metaltalim that we say that it doesn't go to Yehuda, because he's anyway not getting back the payment for his metaltalim. Says the Gemara, why do we need again 4 people that Reuven stole from Shimon and sold to Levi, and Yehuda's claiming it from Levi? Let's have it 3 people. Reuven stole from Shimon, Yehuda's taining it belongs to Reuven, but Reuven passed away and it fell in front of the Yershim. So now we have Yush and Shinu Rishus to the Yershim. And then we don't need to say that he sold it. That's very good to the shit who holds Rishus Yerush Lavke Rishus Loikech Domi. That when do we say Yush Vishinu Rishus works only if it's Yush and afterwards a Mechira to Loikech? But if there is a Gneva with Yush and afterwards is a Yerusha, that's not called the Shinu Rishus, and therefore you could claim it from the Yerushim. And how does he explain the Mishnah over there? He explained the Mishnah B'inech Lifneim, it means Inech in front of the kids, and the kids ate it. But if it's still over here, they need to give it back. Shapir, so Lefi that shit works very good. Why would they want to talk about Yerush? Because Yerush is not called Shinu Rishus. Ela leman doma Rishus Yerush Rishus Loikech Domi, that there's no difference if the Gazan sold it or the Gazan gave a Yerusha to his kids. And when we learn in the Mishnah B'inech Lifneim, it means literally it's still around and they don't have to give it back because he's like Loikeach. Why did our Mishnah not talk? Why did the Brayta not talk about Mechira? It could be talked about Yerusha. That's simpler. Because anyway, you have to say that Reuven died. Void kasha le'Abaye, and Abaye has another kasha in explaining the Brayta this way. Because it says in the Brayta that the difference between the Reisha and the Sefer is b'pnei she'achariyuso yolav ve'ein achariyuso yolav, because achrayis and nor achrayis. They should have said b'pnei she'chozeres lo ve'ein chozeres lo. Really, the difference is by karka ein nigzeles, and therefore it goes back to Shimon, and therefore he's noigeh beidus. It's not chozeres because it's metaltelim with Yush and Shinu Rishus that doesn't go back to him. That should be the difference in the Brayta. Why did the Brayta talk about Christ? The main afkamina is does he get it back or does he not get it back? So let's see that again. Void kasher Abaye fnei she'achariyuso yolav ve'ein achariyuso yolav. That should be the point. That's what it says. Mipnei she'chozeres ve'ein chozeres lo mibo elei. That should be the point. Elo said the Gemara, a whole new explanation in this braysa. Kederabin bar Shmuel, like grabbing the son of Shmuel, the Omar Rabin bar Shmuel, Mishmei the Shmuel in the name of Shmuel. Amoicha soda lechaver shloi b'achrayis. Reuven sold Shimon in the field without taking any guarantee that if something happens to the field, he'll pay him back. Ein made loyolo. He's not allowed to be made that this field, if someone's trying to take away from Shimon, he can't be made that belongs to Shimon. Why? Because he preferred that it should stay by Shimon because he gave a loan before he sold the karka to Shimon, and now if he doesn't have money to pay the loan, they're going to go and take the karka from Shimon, and it's shloi b'achrayis, so therefore Shimon can't go back to him. So he preferred that this field stays by Shimon. V'dafka b'ayis osoda, continues Shmuel, especially a house or a field. Aval pora v'talis. But if we talk about a cow or a cloak, loimi boy, not only says the Gemara Daf Mem Daled on base bistoma, that if he Reuven sold it to Shimon without achrayis, stam randomly, they wasn't miyached it alvo, deloi mishtabedle, that the Baal Choiv, let's say Reuven owed money to Levi before he sold the pearl of the talis to Shimon. Levi can't come and take it off Shimon because it's metaltelin. Deloi mishtabdele my time. Why is that metaltelin? You know, it's metaltelin Baal Choiv lo mishabde, and we know that metaltelin no mishubah to Choiv. Even though when Reuven took the loan from Levi, he wrote that he's going to pay back even from his cloak that he's wearing. That means the cloak that he still owns. If he's not by him anymore and he sold them on, you can't take it from the person you sold it to. So if Reuven took a loan from Levi and afterwards sold his cow to Shimon, Levi can't take this cow talis from Shimon. Elo, afilu aso apoitiki nami loy. Even if apoitiki means that when he took a loan, he said this specific item is going to be mishubah to the choiv. So even when Reuven took a loan from Levi, he said this talis or this parah is going to be mishubah to the choiv, and then he sold it to Shimon. Levi can't take this parah and talis. Why not? My time akadirova domarova. Also after apoitiki, if someone made his slave apoitiki to say that you're going to take the choiv back from this, and afterwards he sold it on, Baal Choiv goy b'menu, then Baal Choiv could take it if it's a eved. Shorer v'chamor apoitiki, but if he made his ox or his donkey apoitiki umochre and afterwards he sold it, and Baal Choiv goy b'menu, Baal Choiv can't claim it. My time, what's the reason? Ahai is lekolo v'ai les lekolo. This has a coil and this doesn't have a coil. That means when you make your eved apoitiki, everyone know about it. So if someone bought the eved, he should have known about it, and therefore he lost it by himself. That he bought it, he took a risk. But by a shor and chamor, there's no coil. People don't know about it. So someone buys it. How should he know that it's meshubad? And therefore it's not meshubad. So therefore we're explaining that our braysa, that it says mochaloi bayis mochaloi sode, that ain't made loyoleo, because we choishish that he wants to be mamidit b'fnei Baal Choivoi. But when it's metaltelim, he doesn't gain anything from it that stays Shimon, because the Baal Choiv anyway can't claim it from Shimon, and therefore he's not negeh beidus, and therefore Reuven can be made on it. And now we understand the brisa very well. Fragt the Gemara, let's be choishish. Even by metalteli, why in the Sefer when Reuven sold Shimon, a cow or donkey or cloak, he could be made that belongs to Shimon because the Baal Choiv Levi can't take away from Shimon? No, he could take it, because maybe when he took the loan off Levi, he was meshabet him a karka, and agav karka was meshabet this cow, and in such a case, we're going to see that the cow is meshubad, and Levi could take it away from Shimon even if Reuven sold it to Shimon, and therefore he is negeh beidus Reuven to say that it belongs to Shimon. The Omar Rabba said, Rabba yakne li metalteli agav mekarkri, if the loiva was makne to the malve karka, together with metaltelim agav koni mekarki koni metaltelim, they both meshubad, and even if he sells the metaltelim, it's meshubad to the choiv. V'omer Rav Chizda said on that, v'u de kosav le'deloi kasmach, that should work. You need to write in the document that this shibud is not like a bet. It's not like a smachta if. It's proper kinyan. Veloy kutoifsa the story, and also you need to write that it's not like a toifsa the story. It's a proper star that was written specifically for this. No, toifsa the story means a star that's like a stencil that you copy from it. That's also not good. It needs to be original star that was written for this. But we could see that there is a case where metaltelim are meshubad to Baal Choiv. So why we not choishes when Reuven's made that this item they sold to Shimon really belongs to Shimon? There is no geh be'edus because he wants it to stay by Shimon. There's Baal Choiv should take it away from him because maybe he was meshabed agav karka. So the Gemara ochad ma'askinan kigoyin shelokach u'mocha le'alta. We know clearly that when Reuven bought this item, this cow, and sold it straight away to Shimon, so there was no time in between. There was meshabed agav karka to Baal Choiv because there was no loan in between. We saw with Eidim that happened straight away, so there's no such a chashash. So the Gemara v'leichush dilmid de akne hu omalei, meaning that when first Reuven went to Levi, took a loan, and when he took a loan, he told him, I'm meshabed my karka to you, and agav my karka, I'm meshabed to you, my metaltin I'm going to buy in the future. And then in the future, he bought this cow, and straight away sold it to Shimon, but the second that was his, it was already meshabed to Levi. And therefore, he's negeh be'etos that he wanted to stay by Shimon. So said the Gemara, if we don't have this chashash, we could hear from here, the ikne kono, mochar kono, v'rishloi mishtabed. That if someone did something like that he was makne, a karka, and agav karka was maknet to the koina items that he doesn't own yet, that he's planning to buy later, and then he buys them, the kinyan's nochal, and therefore if he sells it to someone else, or someone else is koiner it, if he gives it as a present, meaning the akne kono, if he sells it or he was murishit, lo mishtabed, it's not mishtabed, because when do we say the agav karka it's mishtabed? Something that he has already, something that he doesn't have that he's going to planning to buy in the future is not mishtabed, and it's a machloikas. We have a shaila about it later on. So we can bring a raya over here that it doesn't work, that the shibud doesn't work because it's dava shelo. So the Gemara it's talking about the Ka'amre Eidim. We have here Eidim that they say Yodinan Bey. We know about this Reuven who sold the item to Shimon Bahai, and Reuven the Loy Avele Aram Olam. They never had the land in his whole life, and therefore he could never do a agav mishabed agav karka because he never owned karka, and therefore there's no chashash that he's negeh beidus because he can't be mishabed as mitaltel into Baal Choiv because he never had karka. Says the Gemara of Omar Rav Papa said, Afal gav the Omar Rabbanon, even though the Rabbanon said, Amoiche soda lechaver shloi b'achrayis, Reuven sold the field to Shimon without achrayis, without responsibility if we take away from Shimon to pay back. Uba Baal Choivoi. And then the Baal Choiv, the Malve of Reuven came, the Torfa, and took it away from Shimon. So Shimon can't go back to Reuven and say, give me my money back for the karka because it was Shaloi Bachrayos. But if Nimtzes Sheina Shaloi, not the Baal Choiv came, but we found out there was never Reuven's. Reuven stole this karka and sold it to Shimon, even though there was Shaloi Bachrayos. Shimon could get back his money from Reuven because there was never a sale. When there was a sale from Reuven to Shimon and afterwards the Baal Choiv took it, so there was a sale for a bit. So then we say it was Shaloi Bachrayis, he can't come back to Reuven. But if we find out that the Mechira was never Mechira because Reuven sold something that doesn't belong to him, so Shimon could get back his money. So Also here, if we find out that Reuven sold to Shimon something, this metaltalin that didn't belong to him whatsoever, so Shimon could come back to him, to Reuven, and claim back his money. So therefore, Reuven's noger be'edus to say that it belongs to Shimon, because if Yehuda comes and takes it from Shimon and says it was never Reuven's, Reuven will have to pay back to Shimon. So it's noger be'edus. So the Gemara, and it's talking about b'maki boy shibascha moriroi. It's talking about that Shimon, the buyer, says, I know that it's the daughter of the son of the donkey that belonged to Reuven. That means I know it belonged to Reuven. And therefore Shimon, from Shimon, the buyer that used to belong to Reuven. So Shimon could never come and claim from Reuven, you sold me a stolen item, because he admits himself, Shimon, that it belonged to Reuven. And therefore there's no such a claim from Shimon to Reuven, and therefore Reuven can be made that belongs to Shimon, because Reuven's not like Gabedus, because Shimon anyway can't claim it from him, ever, because he admits it used to belong to him. Rav Zvid Omar of this has another teretz. Even if Reuven sold Shimon something, a cloak or talis that doesn't belong to him, Shimon can't come and get back the money from Reuven. The Omalei, this is what Reuven will tell Shimon. That's why I sold you this item, that even if it's stolen, you can't come back to me. The transaction's done, and even though I stole this item, you can't come back to me. And therefore Reuven can be made on it that belongs to Shimon, because Shimon anyway can't come back to Reuven because it was Shaloi B'Achrayis, and therefore he's not noger ba'edus. We should all hear lots of B'soros Tovos, and good days should come to Am Yisrael.